Welcome in, folks, here on Big Blue View's audio lineup and YouTube channel. I am Joe DeLeon, joined by Chris Fum and Nick Filato for our Week 7 preview for the Giants matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Giants currently sitting at a record of 1-5, looking to bounce back after what we deemed a pretty disheartening loss against the Los Angeles Rams. And this game, I think, could go in a number of different directions. And we're going to unpack a lot of that stuff here, familiarizing you with their offense, their defense. But I think that the way I'd like to open this discussion is that point that this game could really go in two completely different directions. This Panthers team has not really done well outside of the really weak opponents that they've played. But at the same time, this could be an opportunity for the Panthers to get back on track after that 3-0 start.
Yeah. Unfortunately, right now the Giants are one of those weak opponents. They, especially their defense, is kind of letting opposing quarterbacks have their way with them, and that is where Sam Darnold has, excelled.
Not even just excelled, and it's not even just quarterbacks, it's also scheme, man. Like, after rewatching the all 22 and the broadcast film of that Rams game, dude, it was just so evident that Sean McVay was doing whatever he wanted against Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham didn't have an answer, whether it was zone match, whether it was man coverage. There were always plays built into Sean McVay's playbook, and Matt Stafford knew where to go with the football. Now, Sam Darnold is not Matt Stafford, and I actually think this is a very winnable game. And that shouldn't come as a surprise, but the state of the Giants right now, it kind of comes off as a surprise, right? Because the Giants have been so abysmal. But Carolina, they started 3-0 against three, teams that are lackluster, and now they lost 3 straight against some quality teams. The Giants are not a quality team, but they are at home. And I think if the Giants do win this football game, which I do believe is possible somehow, despite the fact that their offense is terrible, it has to be on the back of the defense, and they have to force turnovers from Sam Darnold. We heard Matt Rule earlier this week say we have to commit to the run. So I expect a ton of Chuba Hubbard, who hasn't been overly efficient, but at the same time, with that offensive line, he averages 3.9 yards per carry. I think we can all agree that's not great. It's the same yards per carry that Christian McCaffrey averaged through 3 games as well.
Right. That's the point that I was trying to get at there, is exactly what you said, Nick, which is everyone is just going to overlook this game as another win for the Panthers to get back on track and for them to bounce back. But if you look at this matchup on paper, and if the Giants are going to steal a win throughout the rest of the course of their schedule, this is going to be one of those games where they can steal a win against a team that might be looking past the Giants. And you already started to dive deep into how the Giants defense needs to play really well in this game. They need to have a recovery game after a really messy performance last week where they were just outmatched, they were outcoached. There were a lot of different things that happened because of Sean McVay's coaching prowess and his intelligence as a play caller. But here they are going against an offense that has not really been very consistent this year. Sam Darnold, the first 3 games, everybody's talking about how this is the comeback kid. This is a guy who now he's in a good circumstance and he's going to have a really good year. And I think he was leading the NFL in rushing touchdowns or something like that at one point. And, of course, now he plays some better defenses, some better coached teams, and he starts turning the football over. We start to see some of that old Sam Darnold. You're talking about how there's no Christian McCaffrey, but Chuba Hubbard is still producing at a quality enough rate that their offense is just moving, and they're staying on schedule with their production. But this is a game where they could really, really lock down that Panthers offense if they're effective.
Now, Chris, I wanted to ask you something. I'm sorry if I cut you off there, bro. But Joe Brady. All right, Joe Brady is a great offensive mind, and we've seen plenty of great offensive minds just absolutely take advantage of what Patrick Graham wants to do. Do you think Joe Brady has it? The combination of Joe Brady and Sam Darnold will be able to replicate something similar to what Scott Turner was able to do against the Giants defense, what Sean McVay did last week, and you could just kind of go through all the offensive coordinators who found their way and had their way with the Giants defense.
I think they're going to try. I'm not sure if they've got the guys to get it done. They don't have a Cooper Kupp. They don't have a Robert Woods. DJ Moore, he is a good player. He has been productive, reasonably reliable this year. Robbie Anderson is having himself a bad year. He's dropping the ball like he really never has before. And Robbie Anderson has not played well. He's, he's only catching 37.5% of his passes, down from 69.9 a year ago. So, maybe the chemistry between him and Darnold just isn't there. But, maybe they can scheme something up with DJ Moore. I'm interested to see how they use Tommy Tremble, because I liked him coming out of Notre Dame. I thought he could be a bit of a sleeper as a guy that Notre Dame just never really got involved in their passing game, but he is really kind of an athletic freak of an H-back. And considering the way the Giants struggle to cover tight ends, H-backs, that type of player over the middle, that I think could be an area where Joe Brady tries to exploit the Giants. Now, there isn't a doubt in my mind that Brady has been diving into the tape of, especially the last 2 weeks with the Cowboys and then the Rams, to see maybe, if not, he can't replicate what CeeDee Lamb or Cooper Kupp are able to do, but he can at least look at the schemes and how Patrick Graham responded to those schemes, and how Kellen Moore and Sean McVay really exploited what the Giants want to do on defense.
Yeah, man. Dude, Robbie Anderson, it's been insane. In the last week, just alone with that Panthers offense, they had 8 drop passes. I think Anderson had 3. I think DJ Moore, who I believe he could be in the conversation for a top 12, maybe even a top 10 conversation wide receiver in the league. I think he has that type of potential, that type of playmaking ability. And we haven't really necessarily seen it result in production quite yet. But he dropped like 3 passes last week too, man. And then I think a couple other players dropped 3 passes. And just to touch on your point about Tommy Tremble, I agree. Now, rookie tight ends typically aren't overly productive in their rookie seasons just because they're learning the nuances of playing that position. And remember, the Panthers had Dan Arnold, and they felt comfortable enough to trade Dan Arnold to the Jags to get C.J. Henderson from them. That was an excellent deal by the Carolina Panthers. But as long as it's Tommy Tremble defeating the Giants through the receiving and not Ian Thomas, because Ian Thomas is a straight blocker, bro, like a 265-pound dude. And Ian Thomas is out here catching touchdowns against the Giants, man. It's just, it's going to remind me of the Wani Unga years of the New York Giants, where they just couldn't cover anybody, any tight end at all. Like, I could have strapped my pads out there, got out there, and I would have maybe possibly caught a tight end. And I'm not necessarily all that big or athletic.
Right, knowing the Giants' luck and the way that they've been playing lately, a guy like Ian Thomas could just randomly show up and have a couple touchdowns or have a couple big gains to give him a productive day. But I think Tremble's an interesting player to throw into the mix. If we're pinpointing who is likely going to be the biggest threat in this game, I think DJ Moore has to be discussed. Nick, you mentioned the fact that he is close to the conversation of being a top 10 receiver. And right now he has that production to back it up. Now there's some of those drops that are obviously major headaches for a team that's trying to put together some more offensive consistency, but DJ Moore has had a really good year so far. And if anybody's going to be a problem for this Giants defense, it's going to be DJ Moore. Do you guys think though, that if that's a matchup between him and Bradbury, that it won't be as much of a problem? Or is he a guy that could maybe win in that situation?
I think Moore could win in that situation, but I think Bradbury can too. I think it will be similar to the matchup between Terry McLaurin and James Bradbury. And Bradbury gets a lot of crap for that. He gave up the touchdown. That was more positioning to me than anything else. I'm not 100% certain. I'm sure that's more of a scheme thing than just James Bradbury judging the alignment he wants to use against Terry McLaurin. But in that game, to be fair to Bradbury, he had plenty of reps where he shut Terry McLaurin down, or Terry McLaurin put a sick route on him and he was able to cover them. It's just, sometimes when you're against another top athlete on an opposing team, they're going to get you sometimes and you're going to get them. And I think that's kind of the trade-off. It's definitely not something where I think Bradbury would get dominated, but it's definitely not something where I think Bradbury could dominate him either.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way it's going to go. They will have a good battle, and it really could come down to just the positions Joe Brady puts DJ Moore into. If he uses scheme to get separation, if they're able to, maybe if Robbie Anderson isn't being thrown the ball, because that doesn't seem to be a high percentage play right now, they use him to kind of scrape off Bradbury or Adoree Jackson in coverage, using rub routes, putting them in conflict. And that, I think, could be when you see DJ Moore get put into positions to run after the catch and use his ability with the ball in his hands to pick up yardage.
So shifting our focus defensively now to a team that through those first 3 weeks was considered to be one of the best defenses in the NFL for 2021. They've had a little bit of a rough patch in some of these other games, but they have the talent. And on a Matt Rule coach team, it makes sense that they are pretty stout defensively. They've got a lot of playmakers, but the one that comes into play here now this week apparently is Stephon Gilmore, the former Defensive Player of the Year with the New England Patriots. Deals with some contract stuff, some injury stuff. He gets traded to the Panthers, has not stepped on the field yet, and this is supposedly going to be the week that he does step on the field. Of course, the Giants' luck. So Gilmore in this situation, I think, really boosts their secondary that was already really good. They've got Jeremy Chin. J.C. Horn was having a good start to his rookie season, but the foot injury really kills that start to the year. And then in addition to that, they just traded for C.J. Henderson, who is a talented corner. So this secondary is very well built, and it is not going to be easy to complete passes against.
Yeah, man, I think no, not at all. Stephon Gilmore, he'll probably shadow Kenny. No, maybe Kadarius. No, not him. Darius Slayton. No, he's out. Maybe he'll put him on
Colin Johnson.
There we go, Colin Johnson.
You're 100% right. The current state right now, guys, of the Giants' skill position players, it's sad, but that's secondary. That defense in general, Chris, and I know I broke down the offense on Big Blue View. You did the defense, and I really want to get your opinion on Phil Snow because the way he's employing this personnel that they upgraded in his first year as a defensive coordinator under Matt Rule. Remember, they were together at Baylor. They spent every draft pick in 2020 on the defense, and now they brought in Hassan Reddick. They brought in a bunch of the Rams edge player. I remember him too. He's another player who plays a lot of snaps for this defense. Man, they have such a diverse set of skills there at every level of the defense. And I think they're going to really pose a lot of problems for this Giants makeshift offensive line and receiving corps.
Yeah, I like Phil Snow. Guys with a Big 12 background, Big 12 defenses in general. And he has been with Matt Rule. I believe he was with him in Temple as well. The Big 12 defenses, they get a lot of crap. But offense there just has a different mentality. Those schools are looking to score on every single play. Those games are track meets because they set out to be track meets. They look to get just stupidly athletic guys into space with the ball in their hand, running downfield. They are looking to run the score up from the very first snap of the game. So that makes it really hard for these defenses to keep up. And especially the way college offenses use spacing, which is a thing you talked a lot about with Sean McVay's offense, how you go tight to throw, you go wide to run, use smaller personnel packages to manipulate the defense. All of that really got its start in college. And that has basically been what Phil Snow has been cutting his teeth on. So he actually has an advantage coming into the NFL. And the Panthers' defensive personnel is quietly really good. They have, and this is a thing I know Giants fans don't want to hear, they have the best pass rush win rate in the NFL right now. Oof. And Hassan Reddick, who I'm sure Giants fans remember from the Arizona game last year, he is one of the top 10 pass rushing edge players in the NFL right now. And while Brian Burns, their other edge, he is coming into his own, 6'5", 250 pounder. He can play 2-point stance, 3-point stance. He doesn't have the sack production that Reddick has, 3 sacks to 6.5, but he actually has more total pressures than Reddick has. And this is just a really athletic, aggressive defense. Shaq Thompson, still a really athletic linebacker. They've got Jeremy Chin, who I've seen play everything from free safety to edge. They use him all over, and he can do pretty much all of it. And then, talk about at corner, they talk about Stephon Gilmore, but, they have AJ Boye, who is playing basically the best football he has in the last 4 years, and Donta Jackson, 4th-year player out of LSU. he's only allowing a little over 50% completion and, a passer rating of 74, which that's some pretty good coverage. And oh, by the way, Carolina also loves to blitz. They've got the second highest blitz rate in the NFL right now and the fourth highest pressure rate. And they like to blitz out of cover 1 and cover 0 defenses. So they are aggressive. They like man coverage, which plays really well to Stephon Gilmore. And they love to get after the quarterback. So considering the state of the Giants' offensive line and just the way we saw everything collapse last week, this could be a really not great matchup.
Absolutely, man. And you brought up basically all of the key cogs to this defense, and this just speaks to the overall nature of this defense. Didn't touch on DaQuan Jones, who's having a career year right now. We didn't touch on Derek Brown, who was a top 10 pick on the defensive line for them. And we didn't touch on Morgan Fox, the guy they brought over from the Rams, who's playing significant snaps for them in a hybrid type of role. We didn't touch on Yetur Gross-Matos, who isn't playing the role that a lot of us expected, but that's just a bit player for them. They have Yetur Gross-Matos as a bit player for them. I mean, that's how deep this team is right now. I'm not looking forward to a matchup with Nate Solder and Hassan Reddick. And then you got Brian Burns on the other side against Matt Peart. Brian Burns is one of the speediest, bendiest type of edge rushers in the National Football League. And Matt Peart can't protect his outside shoulder. That's going to be it's going to be a terrible matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what also you consider that too, that this whole line has become makeshift. The only returning guy that I can think of is Will Hernandez. It's all guys it's basically a practice squad that they have going out there. I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to get Isaiah Wilson onto the field at this rate. But you're mentioning these problems on the edge going against two guys that are already very highly productive. But the thing that scares me, I think, the most in this game is Derek Brown, who is a monster of a defensive tackle. The guy is massive. When he was coming out of Auburn, I was really excited by how strong he is and how hard he is to really hold down. He's a guy that if you're having trouble on the edge, you can't really get any help on him. It might be one-on-one situations between him and Billy Price or him and one of the guards. He's a guy that if everybody's big on big, it could be a really, really rough day for trying to throw the football for Daniel Jones.
Yes, Billy Price and Derek Brown. No.
Yeah, and that's the thing like Nick said, I didn't touch on, and that's how the Panthers have constructed their interior defensive line. Derek Brown, DaQuan Jones. Brown is just impossible to move off the line of scrimmage. That dude is so strong, has such a great anchor, and then like you said, Nick, DaQuan Jones is having a really, really good season, at least by his standards. It's not Aaron Donald, but that's not who they need him to be. Even at their second string, Davion Nixon and Bravion Roy, both of those guys, they have a habit of flashing, even though they don't get a ton of snaps. The Panthers have these two hyper athletic edge guys. Not to mention Jeremy Chin and Shaq Thompson, who they can blitz if they want to, and they tend to want to. But then they've got these big, stout defensive tackles, guys who kind of command double teams and then can hold up the double teams. So that creates even more matchups for the guys on the edge.
I know, man. And even their situational players like Frankie Louvu, who they signed from the Jets last year, are playing a really nice role. They're special teams guys, but they come in on the defense and they end up executing their assignments well. It just seems like they're a really well-coached, very aggressive type of team, which is good for modern NFL. But when you're overly aggressive, that leaves you liable if the offense calls the right plays at the right times, mainly screens, quick hitters, and you put a guy like John Ross or a receiver like that, Sterling Shepard even, in a situation where he has to beat one dude. And if he beats that one dude and makes that one dude miss, it would have been optimal for Kadarius Toney, to be honest, but if they make that one dude miss, could be a huge play. So the Giants are probably going to look to work their screen game here. And they also, they have AJ Boye as well, who's one of the better slot defenders right now in the NFL. Used to be a really, really good boundary cornerback. And I think CJ Henderson is dealing with an injury. I know Shaq Thompson didn't play last week. He could be, I'm not 100% certain what the injury was, but he didn't play last week either. So we have to monitor to see if those guys are going to end up playing. And if they're on the field, it's going to make it even worse.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But I think that is the hope for the Giants, that they can get their guys to win these one-on-one matchups where that is the kind of weakness of a cover 0, cover 1, super aggressive defense where if you can win the one-on-one matchup, there's maybe one guy between you and the end zone. And those do present opportunities for the offense. The trick is getting this depleted skill position core, wide receiver core, to win those matchups. Because right now, the only guy I am really confident in winning his matchup is Sterling Shepard. And if the Panthers know that the passing offense is going to flow through Sterling Shepard, they can account for that. And then there's also the matter of keeping this pass rush off of Daniel Jones long enough for whoever the intended receiver is, or for if the Giants are trying to scheme separation or set up the screen game or maybe play some RPO games, something like that, keep the pass rush off of Daniel Jones long enough for him to get the ball out safely.
I would expect a lot of 6-man protection packages, whether that be Kyle Rudolph, Evan Ingram, or Devontae Booker to stay in to try to keep Daniel Jones upright. But speaking of Evan Ingram, before we go, I mean, this guy has a golden opportunity to make a statement, and it's been like this for several weeks with all the injuries the Giants are dealing with, and it was the same thing last year. A golden opportunity to see so many targets, more targets than what we originally envisioned, and it just doesn't seem like the Giants and him are taking advantage of that opportunity. Do you think he's going to be a big focal point of this game plan? Because it seems like the Giants coaching staff in the past, last year, when all those injuries hit the Giants, they really wanted to get Evan Ingram involved early and often. Now, I think there's a really good debate there that maybe that was a net negative type of strategy. I don't think overall it is on a down game to game basis. But what do you think the Giants and Jason Garrett are going to do with Evan Ingram in this game?
I think they should be looking to get Ingram involved, maybe make him a focus, or maybe co-focus along with Sterling Shepard. I'm just not sure the Giants trust Evan Ingram. He's looked pretty good when they tried to get him the ball the last 2 games, but if that trust is just not there, and if the trust between Ingram and Daniel Jones isn't there, and the two of them have, they have kind of consistently had issues hooking up, where I don't know if it's communication issues or, for whatever reason, Jones does have a habit of staring Ingram down, and that does kind of tend to lead the defenses toward him, which, again, that has bad results, or just what it is, or maybe it is just in the DNA of Jason Garrett and the Giants, the type of football they want to play, where Ingram just doesn't fit. They really want that, what they signed Kyle Rudolph to be, that Jason Witten type, a little bit more old school style tight end. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the reason is, but it really just doesn't seem to work out when they go to Ingram, and now they've just kind of seen gun shy to do it.
So I think that's all a really great way to put into perspective what to expect from this game. It's going to be a game where defensively the Giants could be in a position to have a bounce back performance after a sloppy one against the Rams, but at the same time they are going to have their hands full battling against this Carolina Panthers defense that is deep at all levels of their defense. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you soon.